Okay, we thank Hashem. We're able to learn. The schus of our learning. We should have the Beis Hamikdash immediately in our first name of the Yechiel Nassim ben Sarah, Aaron David Alevi ben Menucha Lester, Avram Rafal ben Sarah,
Yirmiyahu ben Sarah,
Yirmiyahu ben Sarah,
Shirat Tzipora bas Gituleh.
Shirat Tzipora bas Gituleh. Should have our first name. Okay, so listening. Okay, so we're going to start today Yud Zayin Amar Aleph. Amar Rav Gidl Amar Rav. Let's see, this is 10 lines from the bottom of 17a. Amar Rav Gidl Amar Rav, that's common. Rav Gidl is a student of Rav. Yeah. Rav Gidl says, in the name of Rav, Talmud Chacham and Adal Atzmai and Meifel Atzmai. A Talmud Chacham does this mean he can put himself in chayrim, or does this mean he can make a chayrim on someone else on his own? By himself. By himself. What does it say over there? That he can.
I'm just trying to see if we're in the right place. Is Amar Rav Yosef?
No, go further down. Further.
It says Menadas Atzma, meaning he inflicts himself. Yeah.
It would follow with what we had before, where Mar Zutra would put himself in chayrim.
How can someone
Because he put himself in.
his
self.
Now he shouldn't have the power.
Right. Right. That's the chiddush. Yeah. Amar Rav Papa. Papa says, Tasili, it's coming to me. It means like I'm deserving of something special. Why? Because I never put a Talmud Chacham in Chayrim. So what did he do if a Talmud Chacham was deserving of Chayrim? It is like the doctors, they say, oh, all of my patients recovered. So, but what about if you get a patient that's you can't control that, right? The judge can't control which cases come in front of him. So what happened if someone was deserving that? So Kihad Marava, he would do what they would do in the West. When they were joined together to make the ruling, they were joined together to rule that he should get Malkus instead of a Chayrim. They rather give him Malkus. And somehow that would be in place of the Chayrim. My Shamta. What does it mean, Shamta? Shamta, we've been translating as a Chayrim, as an excommunication. But what does it mean? Amarav Sham Misa. Shamta is a compound word. It means over there is death. Shmuel Amar Shmama Yehei. Shmuel says desolation. Mahanya be kitucha betanura, and it works so well. It's like grease on an oven. They would grease the clay ovens. They would put grease on it when they would first start to use it. They would never get that grease out. It would get absorbed into it. It says that's how it would work with this excommunication, with this shamta. It was very effective. Pliga de Rish Lakish. This argues on Rish Lakish. Damar Rish Lakish, because Rish Lakish says, "Kshem shenechneses b'masayim v'arba shmene meivarim kach k'shiyeh yotze b'masayim v'arba shmene meivarim." Person has 248 limbs, and the shamta gets absorbed in the 248 limbs. But just like it gets absorbed, so that's how it leaves if it's removed. Now, the first opinion here says that it never goes away. It gets absorbed like the grease on the oven. But Rish Lakish says no, it goes out of the 248 limbs. When it goes in, the ksiv ha'isiyar chayrim, it's like by Yeshua, by Yerichai, that the city was chayrim, was the spoils. No one was allowed to take from the spoils. And Cherem is begematria Masayim Varba Shmeinim Habe. Cherem is the gematria 248. The Reish is 200, the Mem is 40, and the Ches is 8, 248. When it goes out, when they're removing the Cherem, the Ksiv Bereges Rachim Tizka Rachim begematria Achiavi. Compassion, Rachim is also 248. So it leaves the same letters. Amar Rabbi Yosef. Rabbi Yosef says, Shadi Shamta Gnufta de Kalba. Place a cherem on a dog's tail, vidida after, and it will do its thing. It will take care of itself. Dahu Kalba. One time there was a dog. Daviyachal Masani de Rabbanan. It was eating the yeshiva bachrim's shoes, the rabbi's shoes. Now, yeah, this was, in a theater, everyone they're sitting over there and they dropped, the ladies dropped the back of their shoes, like the high heels, they just dropped them there. When I was a kid, I read a story about this, how this dog went around and didn't eat the shoes, but took everyone's shoe and moved it around because everyone, and after, when the show was over, no one could find their shoes. Anyway, so this dog actually ate the shoes. I'm sorry. Yeah. It's funny that kid's story that I read it's really this Gemara. Okay. One variation. He didn't know who was destroying the rabbi's shoes. So they put a cherem on whoever it was. So the tail caught on fire and it consumed the dog. Okay.
Just side question. Those who were put in cherem, they don't necessarily go into the cities of refuge, do they?
No.
No, that's a separate thing.
They just stay at home or something.
Quarantine.
Right.
Yeah.
Quarantine. Hahu Alma, there was a gangster. I don't know, a strong person. That was bothering this rabbi, yeshiva's fellow. So he comes to Rabbi Yosef. What are you worried about? Go put him in cherem. He says, I'm afraid. Write a psicha is like a summons. Like write it down on a note. He says, I'm definitely afraid of that. Take it and put it into a jug. And put it into the cemetery. The Kariba Alpha Shipure Baba Yemen. And what is Alpha? 1,000 shofars. They're going to blow 1,000 blasts for 40 days. So Azil Avid Hachi, this is what he did. Pakakada Misalma. At the end of 40 days, the jug burst and the fellow died, the gangster. Okay, my Shipure, what is this shofar going on? It says Shenefraim Mimeno. Shipure is also a compound word that the person gets paid back for it. My Tavra, apparently they were blowing shvarim. Tavra is broken, shever. So what is the blowing of the shvarim? Rav Yitzchak Brei Rav Yehuda Tavri Bate Rami. This could break tall houses. Yeah. That the cherem breaks tall houses. The Tanya Amar Rab Shimon ben Gamliel Kalmakim Shnasa Chameinayim Aymisa Yaini. Anywhere where the sages put their eyes, yeah, it's either death or poverty. Yeah. Sometime by the oil, I got to ride back with Rabbi Klein, Benjamin Klein. Anyway, in the car, so he told me a joke. Yeah, he said there was one time a guy, people were bothering him. So he went to the Rav. He said, the people are bothering me. So Rav said, I don't understand the problem. Are they wealthy people or poor people? He says, if they're wealthy people, so ask them for a loan. You'll never see them again. If they're poor people, so give them a loan. You'll never see them again. Okay. So yeah. Okay, we're changing topics over here. We're going back to how we got into this. The Mishnah said certain people are allowed to take a haircut on Chol Hamoed. These were people that were not able to do that before the holiday because of some circumstance that they were in prison, or they were traveling. So one of these situations was a Nazir and a Mitzayra that had just finished the time of being a Nazir, or they're coming out from impurity to purity, and they weren't able to take the haircut beforehand. So they're allowed to do it take the haircut on the holiday, on Chol Hamoed. Yeah. Rabbi Yirmiyah was famous for his questions, and his teacher was Reb Zera. He would ask Reb Zera these questions. He says, I would assume the answer is obvious here. I thought the whole point. His question is, the Nazir and the Mitzayra that are now allowed to take the haircut on Chol Hamoed, did they have time beforehand to take the haircut?
Nazir?
A Nazir.
I thought they don't cut their hair.
But at the conclusion of their Naziris, then they can. So did they have time on Erev Yom Tov to take the haircut? So Amalahem Tanina says we actually have a Mishnah or a Brisa. It's very clear. It's because all of the people that are allowed to take the haircut is because they didn't have a chance. They didn't to do it. They didn't have the time to do it. But if they did have the time, then it would be forbidden. Nazir Mitzayra, afal pi shahayel empnai mutarim. It's not so clear. It is clear, but it's the opposite. It's the Nazir Mitzayra, even if they did have a chance to do it beforehand, they're still allowed to take the haircut on Chol Hamoed. Why? There's a sacrifice that gets brought. Now the sacrifice, Tosfos mentions, could be brought even without the haircut. However, the custom was that they would take the haircut and bring the sacrifice. That was the custom. So we don't want them to delay the bringing of the sacrifice. So maybe they didn't cut the hair beforehand. And they didn't cut the hair beforehand, maybe because they wanted to do it together with the sacrifice and they didn't have a chance to do the sacrifice. So how long are you going to push it off for? They have to bring their sacrifice. You can't, just keep pushing it off. So we say you can cut the hair even though they had a chance before Yom Tov to do it.
House always wins.
House always wins, right?
Better for the person, you can't take the hair. Better for the karma, you can take the haircut.
Yeah, that's right.
Why is it, there's so much stuff about haircuts. Why is it so important? Why do they mention it so much? Because the shorter it is, the connection to a sham or something.
You're asking a deeper question than I can answer. It has to do with the sages wanted everyone to prepare properly for the holiday. They didn't want you to push off everything and to do it on the holiday. Oh, because I'll have free time then. So they said on the holiday, you're not allowed to take haircuts. So everyone has to take the haircut beforehand. They can't postpone it to the free time on the holiday. So there are exceptions to that. So then the exceptions are people that really couldn't have done it beforehand. That's the simple. Yeah, it doesn't get deeper. I'm sure there's many levels of. Yeah. I one time heard a shir. I think my parents sent me this shir from Rabbi Jacobson about different types of hair. There's hair that grows upward and hair that grows down. The beard versus the hair, the regular hair, on the head we make it small, and the beard we let it grow long. And one's pointing up, one's pointing that. It was I don't know. I don't remember the ins and outs of it, but okay. I remember he was talking about the curly payas. That's it was part of that was somewhere in the middle. Okay, Tana. HaKoyen, we have a brisa that says HaKoyen va'avel mutarim begiluach. A kohen and the mourner are allowed to take a haircut. Now, this is a slight problem. Both of these things were not mentioned in the Mishnah as exceptions to people that were allowed to take a haircut on Chol Hamoed. We have a brisa that's adding in extra cases. When would a kohen not be able to take a haircut? If he was during they had a rotation every 24 weeks. There were 24 groups. Every 24 weeks, a kohen his family would have his rotation in the temple, so they couldn't take a haircut during that time for the same reason. They wanted them to come in prepared and not say, "Oh, I'll have free time while I'm there." So I guess if he finishes his rotation and it's in middle of the holiday, he'd be allowed to take his haircut, according to the brisa. In the avel is not allowed. A mourner is not allowed to take a haircut. But if he finishes his mourning in middle of the holiday, he always finishes it before a holiday, but then he'd be allowed to take the haircut on Chol Hamoed. Hayi avel hechidami. There's just one problem here. What's the case of the avel? What happened? How long is he in avel for? He's in avel for 7 days, and then he has 30 days. Right, that's how it is. There's 7 days of Avelis, and then there's 30 days which are the Shleishim. Now, when it becomes the holiday, if the holiday comes during the Shiva, then it breaks the Shiva. It stops. If it comes during the Shleishim, it breaks the Shleishim. So what happened over here? He was in Avel for 7 days. The 8th day is Erev Yom Tov. Well, when Yom Tov comes, it breaks the Shleishim. Yeah. The haircut is not just during.
They resume the shloshim?
No, it's over. It stops. So the haircut was a shloshim rule. He wasn't supposed to take haircut for 30 days. Now, so the 8th day it breaks the shloshim. So the way it works is part of the day would have been enough, and towards in the afternoon he would have been able to take his haircut. So why are you telling me he's allowed to take his haircut on Chol Hamoed? He should have taken the haircut on Erev Yom Tov. Erev Haregel. You know what happened? The Yom Tov was on a Sunday. So Shabbos was Erev Regel, was the 8th day. So that would have been the day that he would have been able to take the haircut, but he couldn't, right? Because it was Shabbos. So Erev Shabbos. So he should have done it on the 7th day, taking his haircut, because Shiva, as you know how it works, the last day is Miksasi Yom Kikulai. They get up in the morning of the 7th day, right? The morning of the 7th day is when they get up. They don't have to wait a full 7 days till the evening. So Damar Rav Chisda Maravina Barshila Halacha Kabashal. The Abashal has an opinion that that the 7th day is considered part of the shleishim as well. So the halacha kabashal and moed chachamim labashal b'shechal shmini shelias b'shabbos regel shmutal galech b'erev Shabbos. That in such a situation, they would rely on the fact that the 7th day, the miksasi and kakulai, and the 7th day is a partial day is considered a full day, and that the 7th day would also work as part of the shleishim. So therefore, The way it works is that if Shabbos is Erev Regel, then you can take the haircut on the day on Friday afternoon. Okay, so we're asking, so why is he allowed to take the haircut on Cholamayid? He should be able to take it on Friday afternoon.
But it can't be before the seventh day. So you can't
Yeah,
be on the sixth
it wouldn't
day.
be on the
Just
sixth day.
Beginning of the seventh day.
Right.
Okay.
The Gemara says, Erev Regel. So what's happening here is that it's really Erev Yom Tov is his seventh day. And the seventh day is on Shabbos.
Right. Yeah.
And Yom Tov starts on Sunday. So he's allowed to take his haircut on Monday. He didn't get a chance to take his haircut beforehand.
Okay.
And the Avelos is finished. Question is the Shiva finished? Is the Shleishim finished? I guess so. Yes, because the seventh day was Shabbos. So the Shleishim also gets broken because the Yom Tov starts.
So it's like there was no Shleishim.
Right. There's no Shleishim. It's included. So Tana Bra, the Tana the Brisa Savala Kabashal, Dam Mixasiyam Kakulai. The Brisa that says that the Aval is allowed to take the haircut on Shabbos, we're now creating a machlekes now. Why is it not mentioned in the Mishnah? Because the Mishnah doesn't hold of it. Why is it mentioned in the Brisa? Because the Brisa does hold of it. Now, what was the exact scenario? So we're explaining that the seventh day of the Shiva was on Shabbos, and the following day was Yom Tov. So what is that Shabbos on the seventh day? So the Brisa holds Miktasiyam Kekula, V'yem Shvi, Lakan, Lakan, and the seventh day is counted part of the Shiva, and it's also counted part of the Shleishim. Even the Shabbos Havi, well, he should have been able to take his haircut, but it's Shabbos. Oh, he's an Oinus. It's unforeseen circumstances that don't allow him to take his haircut. So we allow him to take the haircut on Yom Tov, on Cholamayid.
Onus is like a punishment.
Well, Oinus is like an accident, some unforeseen circumstances. I'm sorry? Yeah. Especially Shabbos. I mean, it's on the calendar, right? So Tana Didan, Savala Karabanan, Damri Layamrin Mixiam Kekule, Vakatali Shalom Lavils to Shiva. Why did the Brisa not mention it? Because that case doesn't exist. Because we don't say Mixiam Kekule. And that means that the Shleishim never started. The Shleishim never started. So the Yom Tov doesn't break the Shleishim. He never had the Shleishim.
Right.
So he's still not allowed to take his haircut even on Cholamayid. You have to, the way this, very nice. Sometimes there's a funeral Erev Shabbos. In order to count the, or it would be Erev Yom Tov, they sit Shiva for an hour, like in the funeral home, or for a few moments in the funeral home, so that the Shiva should start, and then the Yom Tov comes in and takes it away. Yeah, that's how they do. Okay, so we've figured out a scenario that would be a machlekes between the Brisa and let's go further now. Brisa and the Mishnah. Now we go back to the Brisa. The Brisa also mentioned the Kayin. The Kayin is allowed to take his haircut. Hi Kayin Hechidami. What's the case of the Kayin? Are we talking about that? When was Yom Tov? The Kayin serves in the temple from Sunday to Shabbos, actually from Shabbos to Shabbos. They come in, I think, before Shabbos, but their service would start in the middle of Shabbos. I think there was a difference between the Lechem Apanim, who brought it in, who brought it out, the old group, the new group. But it basically went from Shabbos to Shabbos. When was Yom Tov? Sunday. He could have taken a haircut already before Shabbos. You know, the rule is that from Thursday, you're allowed to take the haircut. You're not allowed to take the haircut Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday in the temple, because we wanted you to come in already prepared with the haircut. But Thursday is when everyone takes the haircuts for Shabbos. Then it's not like you didn't prepare before. That was a haircut day. So, yeah. Usually people take a haircut once a month or something, but people that shave, if this is talking about shaving, if we would be learning this in a different show, so we're talking about shaving, it would be like very much, you're allowed to shave, Erev Shabbos, everyone shaves. So it would have been had a different flavor to this. So the Gemara says, Leitzricha, the Shalom Mishmarte Beregel, talking about that it's already Yom Tif when his rotation is complete. Okay, what does that mean? The Shalom Mishmarte Beregel, does that mean it's on Thursday? Yeah. Thursday, which would have been the day that he would have been allowed to take a haircut for Shabbos, is actually Yom Tif. So what we're saying is that he can take his haircut on Friday, Chol Hamoed, in honor of Shabbos. Tana Didan, well, now we go back to our Mishnah. Our Mishnah doesn't mention this. Our Mishnah doesn't hold of this. Tana Didan Savar Kivan, the Tanan, because we have a Mishnah, B'shleisha Prakam B'shana Hikal Mishmar Shabbos, there's 3 times a year, which is the 3 holidays. All of the rotations have equal status in the temple. Everyone can come in for the holidays. They can come in, everyone can be involved in the holiday service, even though that wasn't their week.
So there's 3 rotations a
There's-
year? Of
no.
24?
There was be two cycles.
Mhm,
You would get like 2 times a year
mhm.
to get to have this rotation. However, on the holidays, everyone was allowed to come in. Yeah.
Oh.
So, because it was everyone's turn, Commandale Shalom Mishmarti Beregel Dami. It wasn't his rotation anymore. So,
Uh-oh.
what does that mean?
So he should cut his hair before the Chag.
Oh, no. What they're saying is that it's still considered his rotation because he's still part of the holiday people. So it's not over. So besides the problem of it being Yom Tif, he's also on duty. So he can't take his haircut yet. I know he can still work in the temple, but his rotation is over, and therefore he's allowed to take his haircut. Okay. There's a question in this. What's really going on is they had a 1 day, of course it's a 1 day Yom Tov. They have a 1 day Yom Tov on Thursday. He's always allowed to take his haircut on Thursday. But now let him take his haircut on Friday. What's the difference if his rotation is on or his rotation is off? On Thursday, you were always allowed to take your haircut, so now take your haircut on Friday. Yeah, that's a question on this. Okay, Taner Rabbanan. The rabbis taught in a brisa, if they ever said that you're allowed to take a haircut on Chol Hamoed, which was because the person came out of prison, he came from a trip, and they're also allowed to take a haircut during their mourning period. Yeah. If someone would have been on a trip and he comes back home and he finds out that he's in the middle of his mourning period, or he was in the middle of his mourning period, but he returns home in the middle of the mourning period, he'd be allowed to take his haircut then. Just like if it would have been Yom Tov, he would have been allowed to take his haircut on Chol Hamoed because of the circumstances beforehand. So he's allowed to take his haircut now. The problem is Vatan Yasurim. But we have a brisa that says not like that. Amar Rav Chizda Marav, Amar Rav Shila. Rav Chizda says, name of Rav Shila. When are you allowed to take the haircut? It's talking about when he had a double avelas. One person passed away, and before he was able to take his haircut, after that avelas, someone else passed away. Now he has a double of. Then he's allowed to take his haircut because he came back from a trip. Gemara says, "Whoa." My area Shamru. Why is it then? What does it have to do with coming back from a trip? We have a statement that says that if there was a double avelas, one after another, You're allowed to take a haircut even if you're not coming back from a trip or let out of prison or one of those cases. Afilu koli almanami. The Tanya was started in a brayso. When his hair starts to get heavy, mekel batar, you can lighten it up with a razor. You can wash his, launder his clothing. 2 avelos. Doesn't have to do with coming back from a trip and all of those scenarios that we had in the Mishnah. Gemara answers it. Yeah, those, if there's a double avelos, one after another, then he's allowed to lighten his hair with a razor, but he can't use the scissors. He has to do it a little different. The scissors would have been the normal way of getting the haircut. That's the way it's done today. So you can't use a regular, it has to be done in an abnormal way. But mayim, and you can only use water, but you can't use laundry detergent. Okay. However, if it would be coming from a trip and this, and he comes back and then he has a double avelos, then he can use the scissors and he can use laundry detergent to wash his clothing. Rav Chisda says, you know what this tells me? I didn't know an avel's not allowed to wash his clothing. You just told that to me. You told it to me by telling me that he's allowed to use water if there's a double avelos. You know what that tells me? That if it's not a double avelos, you're not allowed to do any laundry. Taner Rabbanan. Start in a brayso, just like a person's not allowed to take a haircut on Chol Hamoed, you're not allowed to cut the nails. Rabbi Yehuda, that's what Rabbi Yehuda says. Rabbi Yossi Matter, Rabbi Yossi says you are allowed. Just like we say that a mourner is not allowed to cut his hair during the mourning period, is not allowed to cut his nails. Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yossi Matter, Rabbi Yossi says he is allowed. Amar Ula halacha Rabbi Yehuda bavel v'halacha Rabbi Yossi b'mayid. Ula says that by avelos it's more strict. We paskin like Rabbi Yehuda, and on Chol Hamoed it's lenient. We paskin like Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi allows the nails to be cut, and Rabbi Yehuda doesn't.
You said before that basically that people will see, notice.
Okay. I'm taking off. I'll see you later. Also,
I hope to get through another page at least, but another Amud.
okay. Let me know.
I'll send you the thing. It depends. And when you're selling a shrogim, you can tell if someone cut their nails. You look at you say, "Don't be careful with the esrog, with the nails." Yeah. There was one time in a place where they were selling a shrogim, and this lady came in with nails. And the guy that was selling them was like a nervous wreck. It's like, yeah, I'll hold it. Okay. Shmuel Amar, who was that? That was Ula. Shmuel says, halacha Rabbi Yossi b'mayid uba aval. We're lenient about both when it comes to nail cutting. Damar Shmuel, halacha k'divrei hamekel ba'aval. Shmuel says, we mentioned this rule before. Shmuel says that the halacha is like the lenient opinion when it comes to avelos. You always follow the lenient opinion. Yeah. Yeah. In some communities, this would be with Mesiras Nefesh. You know, they have to. It's not so simple to follow the lenient. They like the chumras. Okay. But nevertheless, you have to force yourself to follow the lenient opinion. Yeah. Pinchas, Achva de Mar Shmuel, Isra bein Milsa. Pinchas, the brother of Shmuel, they must have had different mothers. He was in a state of mourning. Al Shmuel Mishal time a minute. Shmuel goes to see how he's doing. Chazino Latufri Davin a fish, and he notices his nails are long. Amalei, why don't you cut your nails? The brothers. Amalei, ibedi dehavi mi mizalzale be kulihai. If he tells him, if you were a novel, he tells Shmuel, would you take it so lightly and cut your nails? It was like an expression that came out from the ruler, and it was too late. And then someone passed away in Shmuel's family. He used that example. He said, if something were to happen to talking to Shmuel, if someone happened to you, he says to Shmuel. So It happened. And Shmuel is now sitting Shiva. Al Pinchas achve lemishal taimim. So Pinchas goes to visit him. Shaklinu letufrei. He takes his nails, chavtinu lape, and he throws it at him. Amar leslach bris kruselos vasayim. You don't hold of the covenant that's been made with the lips. Dam Rabbi Yechanan minayin shebris kruselos vasayim. Rabbi Yechanan says, how do you know that there's a covenant that's made with the lips? Shnemar v'yemer Avram el narav shuvulachem payim achamar v'anivana nelchad kavin eshtach v'neshuvalechem. Avram tells the lads, you stay here with the donkey, and I and the lad, it's referring to Yitzchak, will go, we'll bow down, and then we'll return to you. And it turned out, and they both actually came back. So Avram said it, and there's a pact that's made that with the lips, that when a person says something, it could happen. What is it? Yeah, bris krusa, that's the expression. Savar minei the yadin deregalai. We understood, you see, Shmuel said that it's permissible to cut the nails during Avelos. Understood that that's just the fingernails, but not the toenails. Amravana bar tachlifel di mifarshli minei the Shmuel leishna of the yad, leishna of the leishna of the regal. Both fingernails and toenails are permissible. Amrav chia barashi amarav ubegustra aser ubegenustra aser. You're not allowed to use a clipper. It has to be done in an abnormal manner. Amar Rav Shaman bar Abba havikimna kamedu Rabbi Yechanan be midrasha b'chilish Moed. Shaman bar Abba, he says, I was one time in front of Rabbi Yechanan. We were in the base madrash. It was cholamayid. And he was biting his nails and he threw them. We learned from this three things. First of all, you're allowed to cut your nails on cholamayid. And it's not disgusting to bite your nails, or else he wouldn't be putting them in his mouth. And we also learned that you're allowed to throw your nails around. You don't have to burn them and flush them in the toilet. He threw them in the basement. Ain't he? Three.
Yeah.
Did I say two? Oh, we learned from three things. Plus three things. I'm sorry. Aini, is that so? But Tanya, but we started in Brayso Shleisha Dvarim Nemer B'Tzipanayim. There's three things that were said regarding nails. Hakayvran Tzaddik. Someone that buries his nails is a tzaddik. Sarfan, someone that burns his nails, is a chassid. And Zarkan is Rasha. Someone that throws them around is wicked. Taimamai, Shema Tavar Aleim Isha Ubra Vitapel. The reason is that maybe a pregnant woman will step on it and she'll have a miscarriage. The nails on the ground could cause a miscarriage. Yeah, this is the Gemara. This is the source. Brisa. So for the time of Maya, it doesn't give a source. What's the Kibega here? Ayin Sanhedrin in Tosfos. Okay. The Gemara says, Isha be midrash l'shchicha. What was Rabbi Yechanan's hat there? Is that the women don't come to the base medrash. It's no problem in the base medrash. But sometimes they sweep and they throw the dust outside. In that dust would have been the nails in the dustpan. So kivan deshtani. Well, once it's moved, it doesn't have the same effect. Yeah. Mendy Pellin, this funny thing, like he's doing this show where they closed off Kingston Avenue because someone had dropped a nail in the. It's a comedy thing.
Rabbi.
Yeah.
Does that mean it doesn't have any effect or just not the same level of effect?
So the commentary here, the Rebbeinu Gershon, which is in the Rashi place, says, V'lei maski, it doesn't damage. Yeah. I don't know. It would sound like it doesn't have any effect, because or else if it would have some harmful effect, Rabbi Yechanan would have been more careful. It sounds like it's nothing. Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Rav. Rav Yehuda says the name of Rav. Zug ba mechamtan lifnei Rebbe. A pair don't know if that means a couple. It just means two people. What does it say?
A pair of sages.
Pair of sages. A pair of sages came from Chamtan in front of Rebbe. Marzucha Masni Zugba Mechamtan Lefnei Rebbe. Marzucha says that it wasn't in the name of Rav, it was actually a Brisa, that this pair of sages came to Rebbe. They asked him about cutting the nails during Avelis. And he let them cut the nails. If he would have asked if cutting the mustache, he would have allowed it as well. You could see that he was ready to give another heta there, but he didn't say it. Shmuel Amar Af Bikshim Mimenu Safa. That Shmuel says no. They actually asked, "Can he cut the mustache?" And he allowed it. Bittelem. He allowed them. So funny. There's an interesting commentary here. The commentary of this Rabbeinu Gershon, it says, as if the shaila over here was about cutting the beard. The shaila does nothing to do with the beard. It has to do with the with avelos, with mourning. So it's like a funny comment. Amar, at least from the context of the Gemara, it has nothing to do. Amar abital safra, avitol safra mishmei derav, maybe mishmei derav papa, mishmei derav. Avital safra, avital described, said in the name of Rav, safa mizavis lezavis. The mustache you can cut from. See, according to Rabbeinu Gershon, it's not just talking about Aveil, it's talking about whenever you cut the mustache. You can cut from corner to corner. It means whatever from the edge of the mouth. It means if it goes further than the mouth, it goes those the bad guys in the comics. So handlebars, right? So that would be a problem. It's just from the edge of the mouth. Amar Rab Ami Ubesafa Makeves. It's only talking about what would get in the way of the food. Amar Rav Nachman B'Yitzchak Lididi Kasafa Makeves Dami. Makeves Dami. Rav Nachman B'Yitzchak says my whole.
Why would that be a concern? The parents concern is that it inconveniences us a little bit.
Yeah.
Either it's us or it's not us.
Right.
Don't ask questions.
Interesting. He says my whole mustache gets in the way of my food. I'm very picky about that. Amar Abital Safra Shmei Rav. Abital Safra. This scribe says in the name of Rav, Pari Sheib Me Moshe Amma. The Pari, we don't know who the Pari was. I don't know. Ramses, I don't know. Akhenaten. Right. In the days of Moshe, was an Amma. An Amma means cubit. Was this tall? It's a midget. Zakani Amma, and his beard was an Amma. As a character. Uparmashtikai Amma, and his male organ was also the size of an Amma. Amma Vizeris. Amma Vizeris. Azeris is Azeris is also, I forget if it's from here to here, or from here to here. I forget. It's another plus an Amma plus. L'kayim mashenemar, to fulfill the verse, v'shval anashim yakim aleh. The low person will come above you. But Amar Avital Safar Shmei Derav, Parshib Me Maisham Gushi Haya. He was a magician. Shenemar Hini Yetzamayma, because it says he would go out to the water. What was he doing out the water? He was doing his magic over there. There's a machlaikas actually if he was
The restaurant.
yeah, if he was just a claiming that he didn't need the bathroom and okay.
What's the purpose of this information?
This was because we mentioned a bittul safra in the name of Rav that says what part of the mustache you're allowed to cut. So he has two more statements. So we said that. We quote him. Yeah. The following allowed to do laundry. Someone that came from overseas. If someone only has one change of clothes, he has no change of clothes. He only has his one garment. He's allowed to wash it. Must have Rabbi Yirmiyah. Rabbi Yirmiyah has a question. I read the Mishnah. The Mishnah doesn't mention the fellow that doesn't have another change of clothes. It doesn't mention that case. It has other cases, but not that one. I'll explain it to you. Because Masnisin, Afagav Lesle Trey and Matanfi. Our Mishnah is talking about Our Mishnah is talking about where the fellow has a change of clothes and he's still allowed to because they got dirty. So he's allowed to wash his clothes because of whatever scenario he was coming from. He was just let out of prison. He's allowed to wash his clothes on Chol. But if someone didn't have a change of clothes, then for sure it would be allowed to. It doesn't have to mention that. Or it wasn't talking about that case. Shalach Rabbi Yitzchak Bar Yaakov Bar Guri Mishmeider Rabbi Yechanan Klipishta Mutal Lechavsam Mechel Shamayed. Washing linen is very easy, and you're allowed to wash linen garments on Chol Hamoed. Masav Rava Mitpachas Yadayim Mitpachas Hasvarim Haniyin Klipishta Mai. It says that certain hand towels and other things you were allowed to wash. It sounds like only them, not the linen things. But then one of those examples of things that you're allowed to wash was not linen. You know why? Because the Mishnah was talking about even if it's made out of other materials, even if it's made out of wool, you're allowed to wash it. Linen, it wasn't talking about. Amar Bar Hadiyah. Bar Hadiyah was the fellow in Brachas that was the dream interpreter. I've had him once before, and yeah, I thought he wasn't a Jewish person, but that's possibly mistaken. It seems like he's more involved in things. He's in things negative. He depends on who paid him. He said is the different interpretations depending on if he got a fee, if he got the. He says, I saw the Sea of Tveria, Kinneret, that they had baskets of clothing, laundry baskets on Chol Hamoed. They were washing the clothing there. Maskavla Abaya says to him, Abaya was the one that paid him. Man Lemela, they must have been friendly. Man Lemela and the Bertzain Chachamim Avdi, Dilma Shleibratzin Chacham Avdi. How do you know that that's the halacha? Maybe the sages didn't allow it. Yeah, the Gemara Shabbos says that sometimes the women would wash the soiled clothing of the children on Shabbos, and that was they just couldn't control themselves. It was too difficult. It was one of the reasons why they would get punished. It was because they. Okay, ve'elu kaisvin b'mayed kedushi nashim v'gitin v'shayvrin. The following are allowed to be written on Chol Hamoed. Marriage document. Now, marriage document is not a ksuba. Marriage document says in it, Harayat Mikudeshesli, and he hands it to the woman, and that's like as if he gave her a ring. A ksuba is a monetary document. This is a marriage document. A get could be written on Chol Hamoed. Shayvrin, that's a receipt. Daitaki is a will. Matana, a gift document. Prusbalin is if someone gives a loan, that the Shemitah should not take it away. That's called the prusbal. Igrashum is a document that says when they evaluate a property and they have to divide it between brothers, so they would write that. Igeris mazin, if someone agrees to support his wife's children, so that would be Igeris mazin. Shtari chalitza, if someone does chalitza, they would write a document. Chalitza is he doesn't want to marry his sister-in-law after the brother dies. A miyunin, as if a young girl rejects the marriage that her brothers did for her because she was an orphan. Shtar Beirin has different interpretations, but it's either the Bezdin has already decided who's getting what, or it's choosing which judges they're going to follow. The two sides, the two litigants. Gezeris Bezdin made a decree, they could write that. Psak, in Igros Shel Rishus, and also if there's cases that came from the government, or rules that came from the government, that could be written down. Amar Shmuel Shmuel says you're allowed to get betrothed on Chol Hamoed, because if you don't, someone else may grab the guy, or her, or the woman. Someone may grab the woman. You lose the opportunity. Lema Messiah, you have to wait for the next graduating class from seminary. Lema Messiah, let's bring a support for Shmuel. Says you're allowed to write the document. My lab, Shtari Kedushin Mamish, you're allowed to write that document. It says lie. That's not what it's talking about, Shtari Kedushin. That's talking about Shtari Psikta. That's really the Tanoim that are done by an engagement. An engagement, people say, I'll pay for this, you pay for that. You know, the chazan in the hall and the flowers and the photographer and all. So that was done only with an agreement by verbally. And then they had to write it down. So that you're allowed to write down. Rav Gidl Amarav, Rav Gidl Amarav, Kamat Neisen Lebincha, Kach v'Kach, Kamat Neisen Lebitcha, Kach v'Kach, Amda v'Kipshu, Kanu, Henein Dvar Manikin Bar Mira. These are things that are, by just verbally, it's already considered accepted, but they have to write it down to keep a document of that. Lema Messiah Le. Okay, let's leave it over here. So we'll stop there.
Based on the Mishnah in the last Mishnah. Did you have a choice?
Tell me again.
What?